This week, Mr.Beast had to fire his best friend of 16 years from the channel for serious allegations regarding a minor. But now people are claiming that Jimmy himself knew the entire time. The Olympics hasn't even begun yet, and we've got athletes being robbed and teams being sent home for allegedly spying on one another. Scientists have just made a groundbreaking discovery after they found something strange is producing oxygen on the sea floor. And the new army general has just said that the UK needs to be prepared to fight a war in 3 years' time. Oh, all of that and more, so let's get cracking. Okay, let's jump straight into the first story of the day, and that is the fact that after over 16 years of being best friends, after today, you will never see Ava Kris Tyson in another Mr.Beast video ever again. And that's because, as we all probably know by now, Ava, formerly Kris, has officially quit due to the allegations of inappropriate behavior towards a minor. And yes, I can already see the comments. Guys, I know it does feel like every day we wake up this year and yet another person or celebrity is getting exposed for something. And I mean, you really know it is a theme when this whole topic has a theme song to it. I mean, I can't play it on YouTube, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. But the issue is now even Jimmy is getting dragged into this because former employees are accusing him of knowing the whole time. And after a couple of days of getting slammed online, he finally broke his silence on the whole situation. So I'm gonna try and break this whole thing down in the most simple way possible. I'm not gonna go into the details about all of the, Kris allegations. I'm sure we've already seen that by now. But for those who don't know, you can essentially put them into 3 separate categories because each of the 3 have so many sub-accusations and stories to them that you just, you don't even really want to get into because it's kind of dark. But anyway, accusation number 1, inappropriately communicating with a 13-year-old boy when Kris, Ava, was 20. Accusation number 2, supporting and purchasing art from an individual who is known to have created illegal works of the CP variety. That is, yeah, it's a dark one. And number 3, the general inappropriate tweets, comments, and messages, which I know aren't accusations themselves, but were used in all of this to demonstrate that this inappropriate behavior coming from Kris was not isolated, but rather a pattern of behavior. Now, slowly after all of these claims started gaining traction online, Ava deleted everything off Twitter and Snapchat, which only made the situation even worse. Some of the biggest creators started speaking about it, like Kai Cenat, Aiden Ross, Ninja, Penguin Zero, until the point where Ava finally addressed it. Ava apologized for any unacceptable past actions and said, "I don't want these accusations to impact the hundreds of people who I work with at Mr.Beast, which is why I've stepped away." Ava also denied ever grooming anyone and added that the person who is the claimed victim has vocally supported that it's all false. But despite the intention for all of this not to impact Mr.Beast, it might be too late. That's because during the peak of all of these allegations, a creator by the name Jake the Viking, who actually used to be an employee of Mr.Beast and featured in a number of the videos, came out and tweeted simply 2 words: Jimmy knew. Now, as you'd imagine, not only did this fuel a bunch of people going after Mr.Beast, but it also kind of backfired on Jake himself. Because people pointed out in the comments that if Jimmy did in fact know, we don't know if he does or didn't, then Jake would have had to know too, and he didn't say anything until it was trending. Anyway, to much of the world's anticipation, Mr.Beast finally made his own public statement. He said that he is disgusted and opposed to Ava Tyson's behavior online, and contrary to Ava's public statement, where it was a mutual agreement to part ways, Jimmy put it a little bit differently, saying that he had taken immediate action to remove Ava from the company, his channel, and any association with Mr.Beast. So from his side, it kind of seems like it's a firing. And then concluded by saying that he is launching an independent investigation into the whole matter. But here's where things get interesting, because I'm seeing 2 opinions split into whether or not Jimmy, Mr.Beast, should be held accountable. And honestly, both sides do have some fair points. One side is accusing Jimmy of knowing about Kris's behavior and that he didn't say anything. People are saying that you don't just wake up one day and decide to become a you-know-what. Which, saying that it should be noted, remember these are still just allegations. Kris is not a convicted sus person. I can't say the word. Anyway, the argument goes that they were best friends for 16 years. And not just that, but when Kris had this illegal artwork hung up on the wall, that was in a home that they were sharing. So some are saying it's hard to imagine that Jimmy wouldn't have known anything. There are also some people pointing out that because, Mr.Beast is the biggest channel in the world and his videos are watched by literally millions of children around the world, having such a prominent character that is now facing allegations of child grooming, they say is absolutely unacceptable. Some have even started drawing comparisons between the Mr.Beast media company and Nickelodeon, which, I don't know, in this case, I think it's a little bit different. But hey, I've got to give you both opinions. Then you've got the people defending Mr.Beast on the other side. They say that, he handled this well and he took decisive action to remove Kris. As to whether he knew anything or not, well, as of right now, that's complete speculation. You can't really hold someone responsible for something based off of that alone. And to be fair, the argument which I believe is probably the most compelling is the amount of good work that Jimmy does do with his money and his fame, even just like the Beast philanthropy stuff alone, shouldn't be overshadowed by the allegations a former member of his team is now facing. And to be fair, considering just how many employees Mr.Beast now has and how big the brand name is, it's wild to think about how little controversy he's been in up until this point. Anyway, what do you guys think? Should Mr.Beast be held more accountable for this scenario, or should he not? Let me know in the comments, but let's move on. Okay, this next one is crazy. So right now, all of the Olympic athletes are arriving in Paris. And oh boy, before we even talk about, some of them getting robbed and stuff like that, let me just show you some of the videos that they're taking of where they're staying. And just keep in mind, as you watch these videos, Paris has promised to, put on the most sustainable Olympics in history. Now let's watch. Immediately, athletes started showing off their cardboard beds. And yes, although rumors did spread about that these were to prevent nighttime cardio, if you get what I mean, that rumor did turn out to be very false, especially since organizers themselves are handing out 300,000 condoms. That works out at roughly 20 per athlete. And I mean, as this athlete showed, they are definitely strong enough for all sorts of, hey! Wrong place to pause that. The mattresses themselves are made out of recycled light foam segments, which can range from soft to extra firm, depending on your preference. 3 to 4 athletes will be sharing one apartment that has one bathroom, no TV, signs that say, do not drink the tap water. But then again, on the flip side, they come with posters of themselves, a free haircut and skincare, and all 15,000 athletes are given a custom-built Samsung flip phone. Pretty cool. And because it's Europe and we don't do air conditioning, RIP my soul, some countries have literally decided to ship out portable AC units with their team so their athletes just don't die. But only some, so RIP to the rest of them if there's a heat wave. Outside of the apartments, there's clubs with non-alcoholic drinks, supermarkets within walking distance, and for those who can't walk, they provided electric scooters that can clip onto Paralympians' wheelchairs. But then, outside the Olympic villages entirely, that's where things start to get interesting. Australia's gold medal BMX athlete was robbed last night. Luckily, the team's bikes weren't actually in the van at the time, but they later found all sorts of their equipment, like bags, helmet, tools, massage tables, just discarded near a park bench. I know, this is the worst part. They even ate their chocolates.
They ate your chockies!
Bruh, as a criminal, what the hell? You steal some, all of their stuff, and then you eat their chocolates as you're going through their stuff. The level of casualness around that robbery to eat their chocolates after is astonishing. 2 members of the Australian Olympic broadcast team were walking back from the studio on Wednesday night when they were attacked and robbed by a group of men. Also, earlier this week, an Australian woman made headlines around the world after she was reportedly in Paris by 5 men. And I mean, it's even got to the point where Australian athletes are being urged to not wear their kit when they're strolling around in Paris. So why Australia? So many incidents with them. France, what did they do to you? Also, and it doesn't just stop there, police in Paris also arrested a Russian chef on suspicion of plotting with a foreign power to stage large-scale acts of destabilization during the Olympic Games. What kind of chef are you? Weird. 2 members of staff on the Canadians' women's football team were sent home for allegedly flying a drone over New Zealand's training session. What is going on? Oh, and then this is honestly, hands down, the craziest one. Okay, no, I take that back. There were actually far crazier ones, let's be honest. Just last night, literal riot police had to enter the match between Argentina and Morocco because not only did the referee give 15 minutes of added time, which for anyone that knows football, that's pretty unprecedented. I've never seen that. But then Argentina equalized in the 16th minute. This infuriated many of the fans, and they started throwing bottles, flares, running on the pitch, and it even got to the point where the entire crowd was told to leave the stadium. All of the players were ushered off of the pitch, and they were told to wait around for an hour and a half before they were brought back on to play 3 more minutes. Ah, what? And then, in the final twist of the match, that goal that caused all of that chaos was actually disallowed because they found out it was offside. So, in the end, Morocco won. Only in the Olympics 2024. I'm already gonna coin that sentence. And you know what's crazy? The Olympics starts today. This is all before the Olympics. Okay, exhausting even just talking about all of that. Let's move on. Okay, the ocean, if you didn't think it was possible, it actually got a whole lot stranger this week. Because scientists have just discovered that something is producing what they call dark oxygen on the sea floor. Yeah, we really discovered dark oxygen before GTA 6. Oh, okay, but in all seriousness, you might actually want to pay attention to this because to put this discovery in perspective, until this paper was published 4 days ago, scientists believed that oxygen, the shit that we all breathe and rely on to survive, well, they thought that it could not be produced without sunlight. Yet, the depth of ocean where this discovery was made was in complete darkness. So, we don't understand that. But then on top of that, this oxygen seems to be produced by non-living, non-biological sources described as lumps of metal on the sea floor. Yeah. And that's also kind of baffling because previously they thought that most of the oxygen that exists in the world today was created by living organisms, not dead lumps of metal on the sea floor. Anyway, the paper outlines that there are trillions of these naturally occurring metallic nodules, and each of them produce an electrical current close to that of an AA battery. So you're trying to tell me that freaking cavemen had batteries and electricity down there and they didn't even know about it? And because they produce this electrical current, as you may or may not have been taught at school, probably not. I mean, because I just learned this shit right now. But it can actually split water, H2O, into hydrogen and oxygen. So that's what's producing this oxygen. And I mean, just the fact that groundbreaking discoveries like this can be made in 2024 is cool enough. But it gets even more interesting because just think about what that could mean for other planets. If we now know that oxygen can be produced by non-living organisms, it changes our perspective on which exoplanets out there could possibly have a oxygen atmosphere, which, as you know, is essential to sustaining life. Woo! Come on. That is pretty damn fascinating. That's a NEWSDADDY special right there. I think that deserves a like and a subscription. Or, and if for those of you that don't, I could bring my whip out of retirement. Remember that? Yeah, I can already see the likes and subs running up right now out of pure fear, and that's the way we like it. But anyway, just before I end this video, I want to rapid fire some of the other wild shit that happened this week, which I want to tell you, but I just don't have time to go into detail on. 18 people were killed after a plane crashed and caught fire while it was taking off from Nepal. Somehow, only the pilot survived. I mean, how do you survive that? Wild. And calm down, everyone. It was not a Boeing. It was a Bombardier CRJ-200. Not a Boeing. There was this massive explosion at Yellowstone National Park, and don't worry, it all came from naturally occurring processes. Basically, hot water under the ground suddenly turned into steam, causing it to burst from the ground and shoot debris into the air, damaging a nearby walkway, but not injuring anyone. Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu arrived in the US and spoke before Congress, to which many of his statements were applauded quite adamantly. This, as you can imagine, did not go down well online, with some comments saying, "What the actual beep? I live in the US and we literally hosted a leader carrying out a genocide." And to be fair, it wasn't just online. Massive protests took place outside the capital as well. A boat was capsized by a big old fat whale, and sharks off the coast of Brazil tested positive for cocaine. And now thinking about it, although those two things may seem to be connected, no, the whale did not test positive funnily enough. And then lastly, the head of the British Army said that the UK has to be ready for war in 3 years. This new general basically stepped in and looked around and said, okay, what the shit is this? If we go to war, we're gonna get
corn casserole.
For perspective, the UK Army alone has 75,000 troops, which currently is the smallest size since the mid-19th century. I think overall they have something about 120,000 in multiple different units. But still, if you compare that to the countries which this general says are the threat and why we're, preparing for 3 years' time, China has 2 million active personnel. Iran has 523,000, Russia has 1 million, and North Korea has 1.32 million. So, yeah. Basically, the new head knows that in terms of numbers, yeah, not ideal. Which is why he said that the UK will be heavily focusing on the tech and weaponry side of things, stating modern technology and smart ammunition are far more crucial than troop numbers for military effectiveness. And you know what? I really hope so, but I don't doubt that you'll still need my body up there. You'll still call me up if shit does kick off. So, let's just hope that it doesn't. Woo! Anyway, that is it for today. Alex, I just want to praise you. Thank you for getting this video done in time, everyone. He is always working under a huge time pressure, and he manages to still get it over the deadline within the reasons, sometimes we are late, and it is all Alex's fault. But mostly, well done, Alex. Your work for the Empire will never go unnoticed. Unnoticed. I love you all. Thank you for watching, and I will see you, as always, on time on Monday! And now, it's all to you, Alex. Australia's gold... Australia's gold medal BMX athlete was robbed last night.